Okay, good evening everyone and welcome to the April meeting of Hayfield Parish Council. The first item of the agenda is to receive apologies for absence.
Councillors Wilson and Councillor Jones.
Thank you. Does anyone want to propose a variation of order of business?
Yeah, the Memorial Garden would probably be better, would it?
In what way?
In the second part.
You don't have to, because I'm not asking for a decision.
All
of
right,
a contractor.
There's no financial implication or quotes there.
Right.
So be okay with that. Has anyone a declaration of interest? Yeah, Lisa. Lisa?
The planning application for the grouse
Yes.
and probably the village hall, because I'm a trustee.
Right. Okay, so are they are there ones where you just have to note your, or are there ones where you will not be taking part in the discussion?
Well, I shouldn't take part in the discussion about the planning. I don't know about the village hall. It's
I think
one because I'm the council.
Yeah, probably be better if you don't, if you're talking in about 137 monies. So probably better if you use yourself in both of them.
The Memorial Garden, I'm not sure it's an interest in the technical sense at all, but obviously my wife is one of the people who's been presenting that for the Civic Trust. But there's no actual interest, if you like, in any way.
No.
It might be worth noting that, but
yeah, there's no reason you shouldn't take part.
I don't think so. No.
No.
No pecuniary or financial advantages.
No.
Right, and there's no request for dispensation on matters which they disclosed an interest. So we have already discussed the agenda items, if any should be taken, the public excluded, and I think we've agreed that there's none. Now then, public speaking, have you anything that you need to report, Andy?
The
contact?
Yeah, the sergeant from the Safer Neighbourhood team at Glossop thanked us for the invitation. Unfortunately, no one's available this evening, and there's no topics they wish to bring up. The county councillor for Hayfield was invited, but I've received nothing back.
Right. Okay.
I've nothing to add, Tony.
Right. Nor have I at this stage. Minutes of the 3rd of March council meeting. Someone like to propose them?
I'll propose.
Dave Gates and Eve seconded them, and other people. I take it from that we're all in favour.
Yeah.
Great, thank you. And to note the finance minutes of the 17th of March. Are you going to propose those, Eva?
I wasn't there.
I'll propose those. I was there.
All right, I'll second them. I was there. Fine, we'll take that's done. Chair's announcements, not a lot to report. Slightly concerned that lack of contact by both Derbyshire County Council and High Peak Borough Council. Taking the Borough Council, they've announced that they're going to plant a tree in Hayfield. Now, nothing against that in principle, but I think it would have been nice if they'd consulted with us. I also hear regarding Derbyshire County Council that they're making adjustments to the junction between Glossop Road and New Mills Road. Again, it would have been nice if they'd advised us what they are going to do and consulted with us. So disappointed that that we don't seem to figure on their radar, either the borough or the county, and that's all that I've got, is to express that disappointment. Andy,
Well,
the clerk's report. Is there anything to add to the clerk's report that's been circulated?
checking through a few highlights from it. Just on the old school field boundary, Mr. Paul Finn, who's produced the report I circulated to tell us later in the meeting, he has joined the climate advisory group, and he's a very experienced gentleman, and we're very happy to have him on that group. Most of what's going to happen is coming later. The big bit, as you'll see, was your traffic management summer traffic and tourism partners meeting, and you'll probably mention it earlier how I struggled to elicit any response from any department within the county council, but when the Petersham National Park Authority hadn't attended and I expressed disappointment, their head of planning was on the phone to me within a minute, and it was an extreme contrast there. And I also am very happy with the work that one of our gardeners, Chris Wilde, has been carrying out on the Oscar Field stage area. And yet again, the other matters arising, I will get a little bit stressed in the coming months as I prepare for the annual governance and accountability return. Any question?
Dave Todd.
Yeah, it's a couple of comments that you've made there, Tony's just alluded to, and I was looking down the agenda and seeing how many items on our agenda actually depend on DCC. And I think members of the villagers ought to be aware that, of course, an awful lot of things that cause problems in the village are the responsibility of DCC, for instance, highways. And I'm really sort of deeply concerned, disappointed and frustrated, actually, at the number of times in the clerk's report, there were two things, Set Valley and the traffic management meeting, where DCC simply didn't reply to us. You've just mentioned, Chair, two things, the planting of the tree and the work on the roads, where they hadn't bothered to inform us about it. We've got several things here, signage, which we've contacted them about several times, not quite this, but the petition that we're being asked to support for traffic calming on Swallow-House Lane. We've already tried to be involved in a scheme with them on that, and that came to absolutely nothing. They didn't finally implement it, even though we campaigned for it. The 20-mile-an-hour zone was something that we said we wanted to work with them on some years ago. Nothing has come back. The old school field boundary, there was a DCC fence all the way along there, protecting people from the highway itself. They took it down without notice because they didn't want to repair it anymore. And then the traffic management, and I just want this minute in really, Andy, the traffic management meeting was called by our council to look at problems on Kinder Road that will happen in the summer. The police came to that, the Mountain Rescue came to it, and DCC didn't send anybody, even though they're the Highways Authority. And our clerk wrote to them afterwards about that, and they didn't respond to that. I mean, it's as if they're just ignoring us. And we are a legitimate part of local government representing this village. And I think people should be aware of it. And we should really start to think, when you think that something like 6 or 7 items or references here are actually about DCC not informing us, not replying to correspondence, and not working with us on issues. I think it's getting really quite serious, actually. So, thanks.
Yeah.
I agree with that, Dave.
Can I speak, Tony, please?
Yeah.
I wholeheartedly agree with Dave. It's time something was done about it, and it's the same if I contact them. They don't come, as a borough councillor, they don't come back to us. And we need to take some strong action, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know what action we can take. I mean, I think I've said at a meeting before that whoever's in control at DCC But you can't get anything out of them, and the highways are a law unto themselves, it would seem.
Yeah.
But
I've
and they're
lost the
certainly,
battle again.
yeah, and they're certainly not getting any better. That is a fact. Just one thing I would say is that the tree planting was the borough to be
Fair.
fair. But anyway, yeah, no, I also agree with what you're saying, Dave, and I don't know what we can do, but we I think that the least that we can do is write to the chief executive and express our disquiet. So I'll propose that if.
Yeah, I'll second that.
Tony, can I just say, another thing is, I think it's bad on the borough not consulting us when there's 2 borough councillors on the parish.
Well, yes.
Maybe a letter to them wouldn't do any harm.
I'll take it up. I'll speak to them about that. But I think the DCC, as Dave's saying, there's half a dozen items there where we just can't get responses from them.
Yeah.
Okay, so if we've finished slating DCC, we'll move on to the planning. First one is 2 Brookhouse Court, Hayfield. It's a resubmission of a plan previously approved. Has anyone got any comments to make on that? No comment? Okay, fine. Now, the next one, B, is 57 The Grouse Hotel. Now, I do know about this. It's in my patch. Basically, what happened was that the borough made an error. They approved the application, but sent out the wrong site plan. So that was what was approved, and they then turned around to the developer and said, "Look, we've made a mistake. At no cost will you resubmit a planning application so that we can approve it with the new site plan that we were going to approve it to in the first place, but apart from our administrative error." So that's all this is. So I don't really think there's a point in making any comments on that. Basically, it's a done deal, and this is a technical thing.
Could I just ask a question about that, please, Tom? There was an objection to it because of the lack of parking outside the 2 flats that have been made out of the main building. Has that been, has that had any legs? Are they listening to that, or has it been dismissed? Because that would be a shame.
That was all considered part of the original application. So it, how much consideration was given, I'm not sure, but it has already been given.
Been passed, right? Good,
Yeah.
Good.
I know I'm not supposed to, and so I can tell you there is parking going to be provided around that for the pub and the cottage. It's in the plans.
Yeah. So
They
are getting 2 parking spaces for each one.
I saw some work going on today when I drove past. That something major was going on at the front there. I'm glad about that because they're going to be lovely, those flats.
they're looking, the whole thing's looking quite good,
Yeah.
such as it is.
Lovely.
Not that 1 or 2 people locally would agree with me, but there you go. Now then, HPK 0535, because it's been 5 weeks since our last meeting. Now, previously, the borough had given us, had extended the time before making a decision, haven't on this occasion, and I can tell you that it's already been approved and was approved last week. So it's irrelevant to make any comments, I think, about that application. It has been approved already. And 10D is any other items? I don't think there are any, are there, Andy?
No, nothing.
Right. Okay. Agenda item 11, Memorial Garden renovation. Andy, do you want to kick us off with this?
We've had a pre-meet from 6 till 6:30 where Joe Toft and Anne Lyon from the Civic Trust went through the last 18 months of planning, the restoration and the liaisons they've had with myself, Eva, and various other persons, and to agree a specification for what they want to restore it to its former glory, as it were, and they expanded on that in greater detail. I did record their presentation if anyone should want to see it, although I would like a decision tonight, and I did, and I'll put it up on the screen shortly, circulate to you that particular specification. Our financial regulations for the anticipated cost, which if you remember we were budgeted for in next year's budget, would require 3 quotes or estimates for something of this size. They have received 2 and only one of them matched the specification, and that's been circulated to you, and I didn't make it clear, as an example of the quality of specification we require. So we're not debating whether that particular contractor is who to choose. It's just that's an example, and shows you the issues that you need a professional gardener who works hand in glove with a hard landscaper to get what I think the Civic Trust and hopefully ourselves will want. And so what you're debating tonight is whether you approve the specification and whether you're prepared to devolve the choice of the contractor based on that specification to probably the chair here, another councillor, the Civic Trust and myself, to make sure you're financially within our confines. So those are the 2 resolutions you're looking at tonight. So if you wish me to put anything on the screen that I've circulated to you, let me know. And that's all I've got to say on the matter, Chair.
Okay. If first of all we can take the, because no point in discussing the 2 together, the specification. Dave Toft.
No, I was just going to say that it just reinforcing it is very much the specification, not choosing that particular bid, but that's the spec that you're expecting other bids to come up to. So.
Okay. Eva.
I'd like to still be involved, please, if I can, when things carry on.
Right. Well, let's come to that later. Does anybody want to comment on the specification? Are we happy with it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, well, okay, assuming that we're all happy with it, now then, Andy suggested that we have 2 councillors and himself to work with the Civic Trust and to engage a contractor. The first question is, who would like to be involved in that? Eva's put a hand up. Kath's put a hand up. Okay. Well, can I suggest that we make it 3, and I'll be the 3rd, and we'll work with Andy and the Civic Trust for that. So, would someone like to make a proposal that we accept the plans as laid out, and that 3 councillors be empowered to work with Andy to make sure that we're within budget? Dave Gates, thanks for that. Someone like to second that? Mick seconded it. All those in favour? Okay, that's carried unanimously.
Just one last request. As I say, I've only got the 1 quote. I'm gratefully receive any suggestions for using your local knowledge of professional gardeners, local gardeners who you believe could give me a realistic quote, because I've only got the 1 so far, and I'd be grateful to receive some more. Email me after this meeting. I'd be grateful.
Yeah, I know
Okay.
a few builders. I'll ask around. Yeah.
Dave?
Yeah, it would be good, Andy, wouldn't it, if there was some sort of deadline for that?
Yeah, I'd like to. I'm seeking quotes in the next 14 days max.
Because if you and the chair have our devolved authority, you could then decide to go ahead without 3 if they hadn't come in time,
Yeah.
couldn't you?
As soon as
Yeah.
you can, I mean, I've got a priority for myself. As soon as, just in the next couple of days, give me suggestions and I'll act on them straight away.
I did give Andy a suggestion of somebody who could carry out the work. He contacted them and they just didn't come back.
Yeah, that's my problem.
Mick, have you got your hand up, or is it just the way? No, you've.
No,
haven't,
sorry.
no. Okay, right. The item 12 is signage of on parish council land re-dog fouling. Can we just take this as suggestions of areas, and then we'll let Andy work at it, give him a budget, and then we'll work on it? Kath, let's start off with you.
Well, the enclosed play park on the Valley Road side of the park, the no dogs allowed sign is still there, but the dog fouling sign that was on the other gate post on the entrance into the little play park is more or less worn off. I think it's weathered, it's aged. So I think that needs to be reinforced, and people are taking the dogs into there, which I am very angry about. They're just ignoring that. As I say, the dogs have taken over the village. I think we need to fight back. But they start squaring up to each other in the playground, which frightens the children. You know, and in fact, my granddaughter was between two dogs having a go at each other, walking to school the other day, and she was petrified. So I'm getting quite angry about it.
Okay.
I contacted Andy. I've been asked by Trevor Williams about the signage for the bikes on the old school field. They've been taken down, and there's a lot of bikes coming through there.
Should we discuss that in 15 when we come to the old school field?
All right, yeah.
Are there any more suggestions?
Am I missing any more? Have I lost any other dog fouling signs that you want to make prominent on any of our land?
I think they need all checking round, Andy.
Yeah.
Yeah, because some of them have weathered, they've faded with the weather by the looks of things. I think we need to reinforce maybe a bigger sign on the Swallow-House Lane gates that it's £1,000 fine for letting a dog off a lead, because they take absolutely no notice of that whatsoever.
We actually got a bylaw. I've got to be careful. Don't ever. I'm not sure we've got the bylaw to say that.
Well, that's what the little sign says.
Yeah, I know. I'd have to legally check if there is a bylaw in force, because it would be the modern tendency is that no parish council should attempt to bring in bylaws because they can't enforce them of their own right. You need a police officer. I don't know if it's real. I'll put it up. I just don't know who would enforce it.
No,
I don't know if
that's the problem. You can't sit there all day filming people or whatever, or monitoring people.
Yeah, if it exists, I'll put that sign back up. I just wondered whether any of you knew a bylaw existed.
Dave.
Yeah, at the little Hayfield end of the footpath, the little footpath at the back there, parallel to the main road, I don't know what it's called, but there's a thing that says Parish Council £1,000 fine. It's only at the little Hayfield end, and it didn't look official to me, so I didn't know where that had come from either, because we don't own that footpath, do we?
No.
It's DCC footpath.
So somebody has put up quite a large £1,000 fine, and it's no authority whatsoever, that.
And I believe that footpath is full of dog poo as well now.
Right.
Everybody walking the dogs up there.
I mean, somebody's got a parish.
Got one somewhere.
Somebody's got a parish council sign there saying £1,000 fine, but it just didn't look real to me, Andy. So I meant to
that's the one that's on the gate at Swallow-House Lane as well.
Pretty sure either DCC or the borough have declared virtually the entire High Peak an antisocial behaviour area in terms of dog fouling. So you legitimately can say it's an offence to allow your dog to foul and not clear it up. I'll check on the bylaws, and as the chair said, if you give me a budget, I'll research proper signs as opposed to my temporary plastic ones that I've used in the past.
I've no idea how much these signs cost. Does anyone else any idea?
They shouldn't be too expensive, those little plastic ones, should they?
I'm going to do a proper. I think my plastic ones have had their day.
Yeah,
right. Something a bit more substantial.
Powder coated metal that's going to last.
Right. So how much do you need, do you think, Andy, to cover it? £250 do it?
start with that, see where I get.
Good idea. And if you could also investigate where we stand with the bylaws, and I'll work with you on that, and the borough, what they brought in.
Okay. Are you passing that, Gang? Gang.
Yeah,
I'll propose, yeah.
I'll second it.
and so Lisa seconded it. All in favour?
Favour.
Great, thank you. 13, petition traffic calming on New Mills Road.
Yeah, I was gonna pick this one up, Tony. Yeah, numbers 13 and 14 really are they've got similarities certainly regarding traffic. Well, I'll take them separately. The first one is there's been a petition put together gathering opinion about the speeding, the dangers of speeding along the New Mills Road from the Hallam's Garage down as far as the Kinder Lodge. People feel that they're going too fast there, and I think we've got to bear in mind that there's a nursery there, and there's also the St John's Church, and people feel that the traffic needs to be calm there, and they were wondering if we would support a letter, or put together a letter of support. Once again, as Dave pointed out, and you did, Tony, we're not getting a great response from DCC, but backing this petition, asking for calming measures along there. There's already 138 signatures on that petition that I checked yesterday. I mean, I can give you a few quotes from it. Because a lot of people live the other side of the New Mills Road, obviously, and they find it difficult to cross that road with their children to get to the school, although they're obviously a long way from the school at that point. So people feel that it's a dangerous stretch of road. There's traffic coming off the Chapel Road, turning left up toward New Mills. I know there's a little junction there that you can it's sort of an optional thing almost, and they're hitting that particular road, particularly near that crossing, which is not very well highlighted. And consequently, as I say, there's quite a number, 138 signatures, and I don't feel there's any opposition to this in the village. I think, particularly as I'll come on to the school one next, that they feel that where children are involved, we need to slow it down. And there's one particular quote there that we're going to have an accident before anything is done about it. So I think in the interest of sort of the welfare of the village, safeguarding the village, I think we should back this petition and send a letter off.
Eva.
One would find it very difficult on an A road to make them go to 20 miles an hour. And you do see people not using the crossing. I think it needs a pelican crossing there, and they would have to stop then, and they would have to obey it. And I think that is the solution to it.
That would be a partial solution. I think that my personal belief is that we need a 20 mile an hour zone there as well to calm the traffic. I don't think, my opinion on these speed bumps are that they're expensive to lay down, and they're also encourage people to speed up between them, and you get a sort of a revving up of engines, then slowing down for the speed bump. But I think if we just had 20 miles an hour signs, I think the evidence suggests that most people do obey speed restrictions. Not all, you still get the exceptions, but I think most people comply with that.
Chair,
Sorry, you go, come in, Dave.
we seem to be confusing two things there. I mean, they are separate things here, Nick. One is traffic calming on 13. It doesn't mention a 20 mile an hour zone. And I think something that calms the traffic wouldn't need to be speed bumps. It doesn't mention speed bumps. It's just
no, I don't.
We support traffic calming, and one way of calming that traffic would be to have a pelican crossing.
Mm.
We could support a call for traffic calming, and we could suggest that a pelican
Yeah.
would be the thing that we achieved it through.
We could do, Dave. My personal view is that we have a 20-mile-an-hour sign up there as well, because I think they just approach there too quickly, particularly as they turn in via Hallam's. I think if we just calm the whole thing down, and if you have a lot slower traffic, it's not just the interest of the safety, which is the priority for us here, obviously, but you get less pollution as well if you slow traffic down. So you got a win-win situation.
Yes, I
Nick,
agree with that.
if I can say, on an A road, inquiries were made through Little Hayfield. On an A road, they simply cannot bring in a 20-mile-an-hour speed limit. They simply are not empowered to. So there's no chance whatsoever of a 20-mile-an-hour area. I think that the Pelican Crossing will slow people down, and also I think that I don't believe that it's as much of a problem coming from New Mills as it is coming from the bypass, because I think they come down from the bypass at 40, swing around that corner and keep going, one or two of them, and I think that the Pelican Crossing will be effective as a traffic calming measure.
I agree with that, Tony, but if it was in conjunction...
Well, let me bring Kath in, Mick, and you can speak. I'll bring you in at the end. Kath.
Yes, I agree that I think nothing should be set in stone. If people are saying you can't reduce it to 20, it has been reduced to 20 in lots of areas in the country. And I know the residents on Hague Bar are campaigning for a 20-mile-an-hour coming down to the school there, because that is an absolute nightmare. So I think it needs to be challenged, and like Mick says, it reduces carbon emissions as well, bringing it down. So there's a lot of people do want it, as we can see by petitions and everything, you know. So when they say they can't do it, let's say, well, why not, you know.
But sorry, the Hague Bar, as the chair, is a B road. It's not an A road. Slightly different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Dave.
they stand the chance, whereas we probably don't.
The actual proposal here is that we support the idea of traffic calming measures. It doesn't in itself ask us to suggest any. We could debate those later, couldn't we? But we could still pass support for the looking into traffic calming measures, which is, I don't think the petition itself suggests what those measures should be.
No, it didn't.
No.
So we'd be able to do that. I mean, if we're going to end up, I mean, I like the idea of the Pelican Crossing. I think that would be effective in both directions. I was crossing yesterday morning and a car came round on the slip road heading for Glossop, but turned round, and it was traveling very, very fast as I was stepping out, actually. And they did brake, but I could see for a second they were wondering whether to. Whereas with a Pelican Crossing, that would be taken out of their hands and it would stop and it would slow traffic. But we could make that decision later. We could still take the decision tonight to support the idea of traffic calming.
I think...
Eva.
They don't actually put anything positive in that. So how can we support something when it's not there? And I suggest we suggest a Pelican Crossing, and let's try and get it done, because our weight would carry far more than those other signatures. And I propose we do something about applying for a Pelican Crossing, please.
I'll second that.
Well,
I'll come back to you. I'll go to Mick before.
I'm not convinced Eva's right there, because what we've said earlier on, and Tony, you said it, Dave said it as well, we've had no joy at all as a parish council getting DCC to listen. So why are we suggesting that we would have more clout than the parishioners themselves who've gone out of their way to put, hang on a minute, Dave, have gone out of their way to put a petition together. In neighbouring Thameside and in many boroughs in the country, there is a 20-mile-an-hour zone around schools. Now, this is a nursery around there, as well as, as I mentioned, the church. So I cannot see why we wouldn't support a 20-mile-an-hour zone.
But that's not what we've been asked to do, though, is it, Mick?
No.
No, but we've not been asked also to put a Pelican crossing up, as far as I know, and Eva's suggesting we put things of our own in.
But Mick,
I mean,
you're saying that DCC won't listen to us. Well, they won't listen to us on a 20-mile-an-hour zone either.
No.
But that's also a police authority matter as well, isn't it? Speed limits. And as far as I know, they don't allow them on main roads. We have got a proposal that we support the petition, and in doing so, we suggest a way of doing that is a Pelican crossing.
Yeah, and it's been seconded. It's been seconded.
No, I
So let's go to the vote. It's been proposed and seconded. Those in favour? And those against? I think that's carried unanimously. Okay. And this is you again, is it, on the...
Yeah, on 14, yeah. Now, you know, the governors of the school, they've had similar, if you like, sort of barriers put in front of them when they've written to DCC regarding Swallow House Lane. Now, I've been a part of the walking bus there, not recently, but since when it started. And I know from experience that as you come out of the old school field, there's a pavement that goes a certain amount of the way down to the left and then ends. So you've got to cross the children have got to cross the road there at the top of that as you come out of the old school field. Now, that can become very dangerous, particularly as the people are coming from the village end, coming under the bypass bridge, and they're hitting that road pretty quickly. And the governors are very concerned about the speed that traffic's going there. They do actually want a 20-mile-an-hour limit there along that stretch of road. As I was saying a few moments ago, in neighbouring Thameside, around all school areas, there is a 20-mile-an-hour zone. And I think that is absolutely imperative that we support this for the safeguarding of the children.
Thanks, Mick. I've got Eva and then Kath.
Is your wife a school governor, Mike?
She is on that group,
Yeah.
yes.
And we've gone all through this before, and you should get some sort of an interest if she is a governor.
Well, it's not a financial interest, Eva. It's just an opinion thing, isn't it? It's not just my wife who supports it, it's the entire governing body.
Yeah. I just think it is prudent to do that. But anyway, but moving on, Kath.
Yeah,
Did you have yours hand up as well, Lisa?
Yeah.
Shall who's first? Sorry.
You,
me or
please,
Lisa?
Kath.
Yeah, after quite a few months experience now of walking my grandchildren to school and back again, that Swallow House Lane is an absolute nightmare. As Mick says, there's only a pavement on one side, so you have to cross over the road, and you've got an entire population of a school with the parents, with the baby sisters in prams, walking on a pavement which just isn't wide enough to cope with them. And with the speeding, if cars come down at speed, that's an absolute nightmare. And then, as I say, at the beginning of term, we had one psycho reversing his van deliberately into a group of children because he couldn't get into the parking space at the front. He couldn't wait for the children to walk past his parking space in the front of his house, and children have to spill onto the road. Now, if there was any other way to get to that school, we would take it, but we have no option but to walk on a very, very dangerous piece of road, in my opinion, for a few hundred yards down to the school entrance. It's an absolute nightmare, and I think those children need protecting in every way possible. They're in danger.
Lisa.
I support the 20 mile an hour thing. I think that's great. I wouldn't support speed bumps. But can I just point out, instead of just, saying the residents are zipping around there, I mean, my mum used to live down there. The cause of all that traffic going fast is the parents themselves that drive down there.
Yes.
They drive too quickly. It's not the residents on the whole. The rest of the middle of the day, it's pretty quiet down there.
You're absolutely right.
But I would support the 20 miles an hour, but let's not just put the blame on the residents.
Yeah, I agree with that, Lisa.
Yeah,
Dave,
I agree.
I totally agree with that.
Dave,
And workmen and delivery
I'd agree
people.
entirely.
Yeah.
A lot of the speeding you get is people coming in and whizzing along the road down past the school in that direction, or coming from beyond it. Very few of the residents themselves probably are actually speeding because they're not going very far. And the schools should be working really hard to get people. I mean, both our kids went to the primary school and we're up Highgate Road, which is almost as far as you can get away. I don't think we ever used the car to take them down there. You're not exactly miles away in any weather, are you? And
no.
The school should be doing everything it can. But yeah, I'd agree that when parents are whizzing down there.
Also, Dave.
But right, no, hang on a minute. Let's go through the chair, please. I think we are agreed, and also they got 106 monies DCC, didn't they? Because they were talking about using it for the bump. So I think we should remind them that when we write to them that they had 106 monies, which have not been used, and we'd like to use a small portion of it for the implementation of a 20 mile an hour speed limit. That's the way I think we should address it.
I'll second that.
So unless somebody's got a contrary view, if we're all, there's no point going on, we all seem to be swimming in the same direction. I'll take Mick's as as the proposal. Will somebody second it, please?
I'll second it.
Lisa seconded it. Are we all in favour?
Yeah.
It seemed unanimous. Great. 15 old school field boundary proposals. Andy, are you going to start us off?
I'm just going to throw this. Recently joined one of our little advisory groups. The climate group was Paul Finn, recently retired as a woodland manager for, strange enough, Derbyshire County Council, and had proposals for us, or suggestions to assist with our resolution 022116B, which was to create a barrier between our land and DCC's land that goes up to the A624 bypass. And if you remember, the horror we realised when we realised the length of that barrier, and that originally it had been a DCC's, they had fenced it to prevent people wandering up the banking. And the proposal he's putting to us is one that's put to DCC, and I gave you the backing document, which is one for DCC. It's a one-off cost of, as cheap as they want to do it, some form of physical barrier along the length of the old school field, carrying on onto the land that the bit that isn't ours, that we don't boundary, and that then gives the opportunity for planting a hedge that grows up while this barrier rots, or I can't remember, the deadwood fencing, and at the same time a series of woodland management that allows the undergrowth to grow up on the banking and creates a basically physical barrier. So Mr. Finn was offering to assist me in writing to the correct people at Derbyshire County Council to basically offer them almost a win-win, a one-off cheap cost barrier. And after that, there would be natural barrier for the next 10, 20 years. And the reports and the resolution is, do you accept his recommendations and instruct me to write to Derbyshire County Council in an attempt to implement those recommendations?
Okay, Eva.
I propose we write to them, and I think it's a very, very good idea.
Yeah, I'll second it. Yeah.
Dave, has anyone else any comments to make? No, in that case, are we all in favour? We certainly are.
That's easy.
Sorry, I'm just a bit confused.
But what I did say to Eva earlier was that we would discuss on to 15. Would you like to make the point now, Eva, about?
Yeah, there are some cyclist signs put up at either end of the old school field, and somebody has torn them down. And Trevor Williams is very concerned because there's a lot of elderly people use that path. And can we have some proper signs, not the plastic ones? As Andy says, we need something more substantial. And the other
I would second that.
And the other point I want to raise is, who's done some hedging on our boundary?
Yes, sorry, I was on the understanding on the February meeting when we put this proposal to, before Paul had put his report in, when I put the proposal in on behalf of the Orchard Group or whatever concerned residents about the lack of a barrier, that it was agreed at the February meeting that we go ahead, and the minutes say that as soon as possible get one in. What we did was build a 5 metre, very temporary or whatever, for a consultation, and that has worked very well because it coincides with them putting up those identical type of barriers on Set Valley Trail. Now, when we come to talk about the Set Valley, I'd like to talk about a few issues that Paul has raised in relation to public relations when they do any of these projects. I mean, we'll take it down if you're not happy with it. It took less than an hour to put up. It was just a little bit of a showpiece for consultation. Sorry?
Okay, well, Dave, I'm going to bring Dave in first. I'll let you come back shortly, Eva. Dave.
Yeah, well, the problem with that, Kath, is that it's only the council and the clerk that can commission work, because so an individual councillor can't do that.
No, I appreciate that.
No, the thing about it is it could lead to health and safety problems and liability problems. If somebody was to trip on that fence and hurt themselves, for example, who would then be responsible for that? So we did pass that, but what we've just passed is to adopt
absolutely, yeah,
the solution that Paul Finn put forward. So,
which is the same solution, is to make a dead
well,
hedge.
no, it's to have a barrier fence and then to have something behind it. But the clerk would have to commission that.
Yeah, fine.
Sure,
I understand that. Yes, I understand that. Yeah, I thought. Yeah, no, I misunderstood from the meeting.
There's Eva and then
very
Lisa.
temporary. It's only a pile of branches.
I find it concerning that people continue to do things on our property without consent. And I think they want to be made, it needs making clear to those people that it has to go through the clerk and the full council. Thanks.
Lisa.
I was just going to say the same. We just that we go through the clerk with everything, because of, as Dave said, the consequences of, you know, us going off doing things on our own.
My misunderstanding. I thought it had gone through the meeting. I thought it had gone through the clerk.
Yeah.
And I thought we'd got the green light. I'd really apologise, but that was my understanding, that we'd had the green light to do it.
Okay, so let's move on from that. So Eva has proposed that we incorporate, when we're doing our sign purchasing, that we get new signs for the no bikes. I'll second that. Are we all those in favour of replacement signs? Again, we carried unanimously. Great, like that. Item 16, the 137 application for the village hall. There's no financial implement here, is there, Andy?
There is. It's if I take you back, I'll cover it for you. If I take you back a couple of meetings when we were considering what options may be open to the parish council to assist the village and village enterprises post-COVID, and we realised we know legally we cannot support an individual business, etc., but we can support community organisations in their efforts. And one such community organisation is the village hall, who have had discussion with their trustees and have, in effect, submitted a 137 application for the normal maximum amount of the grant of £250. And I should have shared this with you before. They're keen, the trustees are keen to support the local community and are proposing to offer some form of higher discount to users upon reopening. to minimise any administrative and potential legal issues. If the parish council is able to provide a funding grant or donation to the village hall as part of an incentive to help local enterprises re-establish or start a new commercial enterprise post-COVID, then such funds would ring-fenced by the village hall and used to further reduce higher costs until the grant monies were exhausted. So they have plans themselves. Anything we can donate would assist that. And that is the crux of the 137. There are the accounts on it, etc., which can be checked by me. But it is a donation to a community to spread the aid to village enterprises and small businesses post-COVID.
We are merely supporting the village hall's efforts.
We are. So that's one of their efforts, and they will ring fence our monies and show us how that grant or donation has been used to support local enterprises and groups.
Okay. Anyone want to comment?
No, it sounds great. It sounds exactly what we were trying to achieve, doesn't it? And encourage people.
I'll say that as a proposal then, Dave.
Yeah.
I'll second it.
All in favour? Oh, carried unanimously. Thanks. Andy, this is you again, the casual vacancy.
Chair, I'm going to have to excuse myself at this point. I'm sorry for...
Right.
At one point, I wasn't sure I could make the meeting, but in fact, I've been able to do that. So can I offer apologies?
All right. Thanks for your contribution anyway.
Yeah, thanks.
Have a nice birthday party.
Thanks.
Cheers now.
I'll just a second. Should be able to get rid of him. I can't get
It's a bit extreme,
You
Andy.
can't,
I know, sorry, I do apologize. Right, well, we'll just look at a blank room. Right, sorry, I'm taking your time. Casual vacancy, we're following the law. We declared it to the returning officer borough. The notification was posted, and after the requisite amount of time, no election has been called by 10 members of the electorate. Now we enter the co-option process, the legalities of which are not very many, and I wish to propose to you tonight a fairly simple process to fill this casual vacancy. That as of tomorrow, I make clear that we have a casual vacancy by advertising in both our website and the council office windows, and that any interested and non-disqualified persons make their interest known in writing or email to myself within 14 days of tomorrow, and express that interest in 500 words stating why they wish to be a member of the parish council and what they can bring to you. That's the process. You are allowed as a parish council to look to fulfill skills gaps that you feel you may have when making your choice. That's for when you make your choice. At the point when you decide to decide who to fill that, which I suggest will be at the next parish council meeting, there must be an absolute majority voted, an absolute majority of the vote. So if we have 3 applicants, you will have been provided with their resumes, and you will vote. Well, I'll allow you to do a private vote, but you'll vote on the 3. If there's no absolute majority, the one with the lowest vote, this is the legal bit, will be removed, and you will vote again until such times as you voted an absolute majority for one candidate. That candidate will then be invited to fill in their declaration of interest and is then a parish councillor at the next full parish council meeting. If you like, or if you accept that as a policy, there's a bit of law and a bit is just me doing procedure, then I'll write it as a policy for future vacancies. But the decision, the resolution tonight is, do you accept what I've just proposed to you? In which case I will instigate it tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any comment? No, you're proposing it, are you, Eva?
Yeah.
And Lisa's seconding it. So yeah. And if you're
Can I ask one more question? Could you put that in writing and send it to us, or is it going in the minutes? Or...
It will be in the minutes. It will be written out in full in the minutes, and I'll make sure I write them tomorrow. And I'll
Thank you. Yeah,
tomorrow.
then we can have them.
Yeah, I mean, it's slightly better than I use the expression tapping somebody up in a pub. I think we've moved on from that, so it's a little more formal, even though that is quite...
I don't know.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Group reports. Little Hayfield, we've got a meeting next Wednesday,
Yes.
the clerk and I.
Yeah, wish us luck.
Traffic management. Lisa, do you want to kick? Sorry, Eva, do you want to kick us
Yes,
off on
please. I was very disappointed that we didn't get the support we wanted. Kinder has been alive again. So on Saturday morning, Friday, nobody could move beyond the car park up Kinder. So on Saturday morning, on my way back from a veggie box, I put the cones across the road. And there was nothing parked, nothing came up. On Sunday afternoon, I drove down and it was parked both sides of the road from the Bowden Bridge car park up to Easters. And there was a police lady and a policeman there. And she said, why have you parked up there? And I said, I haven't parked up there, I live up there. And we had a long discussion and they agreed that those cones would be absolutely superb because they're so frustrated, the police, they can't ticket them. So what they did on every car, they put police awareness and a slip. And I felt really sorry for them because they just can't do it. Monday, the cones were cut back and the parking was super again. And it proves if those cones are there, they can be quickly moved if an ambulance needs to come past, and they can get through quite safely. On Friday and Sunday, they would have scratched both lines of cars. And I think we've got to put pressure onto the highways to come. As Dave said, we need to get in there first. And it's just gone sour. And I propose that Andy writes to them again. And hopefully those, I mean, I've had a great rapport with Steve Olcott and got the lines and everything, which they've extended again till next year. But you can't get him anymore. It's just
Right.
deadlock.
I think, yeah, it was very disappointing that, I mean, the police were super when...
They were absolutely fantastic. I said that to the police lady and the police officer. And, you know, they know they're breaking the law and their hands are tied. And they just haven't got enough traffic wardens to cope with it. So what's the answer? Employ some more or just let them run away with it?
Mick, do you want to add anything to that?
No, I think you've summed it up well. Generally, we were really disappointed that the DCC or the traffic group weren't represented, and we all showed up, the 4 members of the council, and the police were there. Good discussion. The mountain rescue chap was there, although he couldn't make any sort of direct comments either way on things because he can't be seen to take sides. No, overall, it was great to see everybody from the council showing up and displaying their keenness to get things sorted out. But once again, it was frustrating that the DCC didn't show.
I forgot one point, Tony. I asked the policeman, how come a traffic warden came to the village of Hayfield for 15 minutes only, and he either spent the 15 minutes in the bus station yard or in Bowden Bridge car park. And the following day, a traffic warden came to Hayfield and issued 7 parking tickets. It was quite interesting, that.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, may have had an impact, Eva.
Okay, so climate emergency group, I think you've had a meeting, haven't you, Andy, that you would...
We have not a great deal to report, I don't think, Kath, except to say that the decarbonise leaflets, which we put the Hayfield Parish Council logo on, along with DCC, etc. They've been printed up by Sustainable Hayfield. I've been in contact with a few local companies myself, sent out the attachment on the emails to companies like on the New Mills Industrial Estate there, what they call them, Alcan Engineering and a few others like that. And I'm in consultation with them at the moment. I don't know, and all other members of the climate group are also working on different companies as well. So we're kicking that off and trying to stimulate as much interest as we can in companies taking up the grant. So far, I haven't had any direct to say yes, but our job is just to sort of put them in the direction of DCC.
That's right, yeah. The only thing I'd like to add from the meeting, Mick, was now that Paul is part of the group, we were discussing the Set Valley Trail. I think that's on the agenda for later, but I'll just tell you this.
No, it isn't.
Oh, is it not? Right. Because we as a group are planting oak saplings and acorns and things down there. So we got discussing that and the animosity that has occurred because of the work that's going on there. Now, Paul did explain that the DCC used to put, when they were doing a project like that, they used to put a lot of money into PR, which was to keep the residents on board and explain to everybody what they were doing, because it does look a bit of a mess to start with. And Paul said that since they've stopped doing that, you're getting animosity within communities, with people thinking that somebody's coming in cutting the trees down for no reason. And Paul said on one occasion he was physically attacked by a well-meaning passerby or resident who thought he was cutting down trees for no reason. Now, what we undertook, and he's saying because that department is not there anymore with DCC that does all the PR, these problems are arising. So we're anticipating, if the school fields project goes ahead and they do start removing the ash trees, it's going to be very messy to start with. And we offered on your behalf that the community or the parish council will do the very best to actually talk to people around and tell people what is happening, and try and avoid all that animosity that has happened over the Set Valley Trail, because nobody knew what was happening. So I hope you agree with that. And it's been, I know I was in trouble for putting up the dead hedge, the 5 metre display thing, but they are up to that now on the Set Valley Trail, and they are putting the dead hedge right along. So they're doing miles and miles and miles of it along there. So it has been good to be able to talk to locals, to local residents about the purpose of the dead hedge and what it does and what it sets to achieve. And the feedback from people that I've been speaking to on the old school field said they feel safer already just with that sort of bit of a visual barrier, and they can't wait for it all to be finished. So I know it was wrong to put it up, but it has achieved in that we've started the consultation almost with local people about the work that is going on there. So I was hoping, if we get the go ahead, I know that's in the future, but we could put something in the magazine. We could bear that in mind, that we need to tell people what's happening, because it will be a bit chaotic and it'll look a bit of a mess in the short term.
Okay. Have you heard anything about DCC and taking trees down around the old school field, Andy?
Yeah, Paul can see it coming, because it's not because of the ash dieback.
Yeah,
I think it's mentioned before that the Set Valley Trail, well-used footpath, they're going to come down there first. But his experience of DCC's management is they're going to look at the old school field and say, hang on, there's a footpath down there. Those ash trees could be next.
right.
That will be coming at some.
Well, they will have to consult with us anyway, won't they?
I hope so. They've got to go on our land to do it.
Yeah. So we can communicate at that time to people. Okay, thanks for that, Kath and Mick. Are there any reports from outside bodies? Hayfield Allotment Society? Nothing. Educational charity?
No, we're hoping to get that sorted out.
Yeah, we are. Football and community sports club, football up and running, Mick?
Yeah, we were due to have our first fixture last Sunday, back after 3 months lockdown, but several of our players attend Marple College School, and had a lad there went down, or was tested positive for COVID. He didn't actually display any symptoms, so our lads had to self-isolate. But we're back in the game this Sunday, and we've got a cup fixture next week, and all the other junior sides are playing as well. So yeah, we're back up and running, Tony. which is
Good.
good news.
Anything from the village hall, Lisa?
No.
They might. I had a quick. Can you remember what they've said about opening, Lisa, in line with the roadmap? Because they might save my bacon in terms of virtual meetings.
I've not heard from them, to be honest. I'll be quite honest. I've actually booked a party there, but in June.
Yeah.
But at that time, it's June the 5th. We're only allowed 30 people outside.
Right.
And only 6 inside.
Oh, grief. Right.
So I don't, that's the guidelines they've given me for that particular party. So
Okay. I'll keep
I've
talking.
not actually seen anyone.
Right.
This is where we're struggling regarding meetings. We're all right for the May meeting,
Yeah.
but the legislation permitting Zoom meetings is it finishes. I think it's the 7th of May. So we're in a quandary as to what's going to happen on the June meeting. But anyway, we'll worry about that when it happens. Arden Quarry, I have nothing to report on Arden Quarry. Hayfield Quarry, no, it's usually does that. And anything about the community orchard?
No, nothing.
Waiting for the tree guards, Kath.
Oh, we're waiting for the tree guards, yes, with
Right.
bated breath.
Yeah, I'm a bit worried about them.
Mhm.
Delivery, where are they?
Okay, to authorise payments of the 3 accounts detailed below. The food subscription, the football nets we've already approved, and the map of the grass.
Yeah, the grass mowing. Those of you with sharp, it's a shame Martin's not here, would have noticed. He paid for one of the grass cuttings just a couple of months ago. What this is the county council suddenly realising they didn't bill us 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Catching up, which is a shame, but say the way, you've got to pay your debts.
Okay, so somebody move and second those. Yeah.
I'll
Nick and,
second them. Yeah.
Eva, yeah, all in favour. Great.
Sorry, Chair. Kath, could you tick the boxes?
Yes, will do.
Eva?
I always tick all the boxes.
Marvellous. Eva, would you go at ticking the boxes after the meeting?
Yeah, if I can remember.
I'll phone you. I'll phone you.
Metaphorically hold your hand.
Yes.
One tip: don't try and put your PIN number in verbally because it won't recognise what you're
I
saying.
have done it. It's just been funny.
Mhm.
Yeah, and it'll cut you off for 5 minutes. It'll be 5 minutes before you can try again. Do it manually.
Yeah. Yeah.
And B and C are to note the minutes from the finance and committee.
Finance report and the payments that were made by the finance.
Okay, I'll move those. Someone second them. Okay, thanks, Lisa. All in favour? Super. Okay, which brings us to the date of the next meeting, which will be the 5th of May.
Yep.
Right. Yep.
So with that, thank everybody for their input and attendance. Enjoyable and quite swift meeting.